Darth Bane, birth name Cell, was a middle-aged human male born on Apatras 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. Bane was an adult when he escaped his homeworld and joined the Sith Brotherhood of Darkness. At first, he was a mere foot soldier in the Brotherhood until it was discovered that he was a Force sensitive. Shortly after, he was enlisted into the Sith Academy on Korriban. Bane quickly climbed to the top of his class before he became disillusioned to the Academy and its teachings. Eventually, he would sever ties with the Brotherhood, destroying their leader and many of its students before creating his own Sith Order, which enacted the rule of two: a master and an apprentice. One to embody the power, the other to crave it. Eventually, he would succumb to his own rule of two, expiring at the hands of his apprentice, Darth Zana. Darth Vader, born Anakin Skywalker, was a middle-aged human male born on Tatooine 41 years before the Battle of Yavin. Darth Vader was a young boy when the Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn found him on Tatooine as a slave. Sensing the boy's high concentration of Force sensitivity, Jinn freed the boy and took him to the Jedi Temple, where he would go on to learn under Obi-Wan Kenobi. Vader would go on to progress his skills quickly as a Jedi, especially during the Clone Wars. Many Jedi suspected that he was the chosen one who would bring balance to the Force and destroy the Sith. However, by the Clone Wars' end, he would join the Sith and have a hand in destroying all known Jedi through Order 66. The prophecy would not be realized until much later, when Vader would go on to defeat his master Darth Sidious, destroying all Sith from the galaxy. Though Darth Vader was a crippled version of his former self, he still was one of the greatest powerhouse duelists of the Sith legacy. As with all my videos, I will be comparing these two and their primes. For Bane, I see his prime as when he was affiliated with his Orbitalist armor and when he defeated 3 Jedi meditated masters in battle. He was at his height in terms of force ability and dueling skills at the time. For Vader, I see his prime as sometime between the end of the Clone Wars and before the Battle of Yavin. He had more raw emotion and rage at his outset, but he gained experience after his defeat at the hand of Obi-Wan Kenobi and corrected the error in his one-track rage. Darth Bane stood at 2 meters tall and was built out with a heavy stock. To me, Bane was an intellect foremost. However, after his study sessions in the Korriban archives, Bane focused on training his physical body as well. His overwhelming strength helped him overcome 3 battle-meditated Jedi at once, including one of the best duelists of their order. He did have Orbitalist armor to help him resist otherwise lethal blows, but it was the fact that he could wear the armor at all that was amazing. His largest asset was his resistance to physical pain. Though the Orbitalist armor provided him protection, it also caused him great pain. Only a master of the Sith could resist such pain without becoming unconscious or succumbing to death. Also, there is evidence of Bane's brute strength. Even before joining the Sith and training in his Force abilities, he was able to best a Minor in hand-to-hand combat, even while the Minor held a vibroblade. And of course, he overpowered his Sith and Jedi opponents with his physical strength in lightsaber and Force duels. In short, Bane was a juggernaut. Darth Vader stood a mere few centimeters over 2 meters tall in his suit. Though he no longer had any living limbs and was supported by a cybernetic suit, it actually did not deter him. On many occasions, Vader would take direct hits to his suit and still be able to maintain his composure during a fight. At first, Vader was very clumsy and stiff in his new suit. For a majority of his life, he had access to at least 3 of his limbs, and it was a jarring change for him initially. However, over a short few weeks and months, he was able to find comfort in his suit and utilize it to his advantage. Before his suit, Darth Vader's Force Rage already afforded him strength and dexterity. Though his dexterity and agility would dissipate, his suit forced him to rely more on skill than raw abilities. However, his suit was a huge handicap. his main control panel was exposed on his chest, which he spent much of his time defending in a duel. Also, he could not survive very long without his helmet, which enabled him to breathe properly. Still, Vader was a powerhouse and was nowhere near a pushover, a testament many of his opponents would agree to. Though Vader was a powerhouse, Bane simply had all his living tissue. They both had similar builds and equal strength, but Vader's cybernetic suit, though giving him strength, would be a disadvantage against Bane. Vader was capable of dealing a large amount of damage, but Bane's high resistance to pain would undermine Vader's attempts. Therefore, I give the edge to Darth Bane in terms of physical abilities. If the Sith had an equivalent to a master's degree, Darth Bane would have a doctorate of the Sith discipline. He spent countless hours studying Sith texts, despite the general lack of interest from the rest of his colleagues. He had an extreme desire to excel and perfect his knowledge of the Sith teachings, which led him to being one of the most powerful Force users of his time. He even went as far as to search for texts outside of the Korriban Academy, finding an old holocron from Darth Revan, which would inspire him to create a new order. His studies did not stop in the library, however. He used what he learned practically as well. One of his Sith instructors on Korriban, Githany, held private sessions with Bane, eventually training him how to use Force Lightning. Bane would go on to be so powerful with the ability, he could kill most opponents instantly with just Force Lightning. During combat, Force users put up a Force shield around them as a resistance to such attacks such as Force Push or Lightning, but still, Bane could penetrate their Force shields. Bane's Force abilities also offered him resistance to physical pain and poisons as well. He once combated the effects of Synox on the planet Ambria, though nearly succumbing to its effects. Darth Bane was also an advanced user of the Dun Mach technique, which gave him the ability to imprint fear and anguish in his opponents. Furthermore, he was able to resist similar attacks from opponents, putting up a powerful Force shield around him during combat. Bane had a natural affinity for the Force, but unlike most, he propelled himself to a grander level through focused training and intense research. Initially, Vader was the opposite to Bane. Though they shared the history of entering their respective orders unusually late in life, Vader did not have an extensive knowledge of the Force. Instead, he had a strong and raw Force ability. It was perhaps the fact that he was so powerful in the Force that he did not take time to study it as in-depth as Bane. It was his limitations later in life which led him to gain more skill in the Force, though his raw ability had dissipated. Furthermore, it is noted that Vader was never fully engulfed in the dark side, and thus never met his full potential. The lingering guilt he had would disable many of his abilities. The only time Vader was fully engulfed by the dark side was his time during the outset of the Jedi Purge. Though, his ego would get the better of him, which would be his undoing in his fight against Obi-Wan Kenobi. However, Vader still had the most Force potential of any other living being. Even without his full potential realized, he had an arsenal at his disposal. He was an advanced user of telekinesis, as showcased during his duel with Luke Skywalker on Bespin, as well as many other occasions. He was also an advanced user of Force Choke, able to apply the ability to those not even in his direct vicinity, as showcased with several of his admirals in Empire Strikes Back. He has also been known to crush opponents' internal organs. Darth Vader was an advanced user of Tutamentis. This power allowed its user to absorb high concentrations of energy, including blaster bolts, lightning, and even lightsabers. Vader has used his ability in Tutamentis several times, including against Han Solo at Bespin. Unlike most Sith, Vader did not possess the ability to conjure Force Lightning. Actually, he had the ability, but using the power would disable his suit and cause more pain to him than his opponent. Therefore, he avoided it altogether. Vader is an interesting Sith. As a Jedi, he never met his full potential because his dark side was holding him back. As a Sith, he never met his full potential because his guilt and the light within him held him back. Vader is possibly the most powerful being in the history of the Star Wars universe in terms of raw force ability. However, he had huge limitations. Bane is almost the complete opposite of Vader. Yes, he held a natural ability in the Force, but not as much as Vader. Instead, Bane worked for his abilities. He studied, practiced, and honed them to perfection. The fact that Bane started in the Sith Academy so late will propel him to train harder and do better than his colleagues. Disadvantage is what will propel Vader to improve his abilities as well. As Anakin Skywalker, he didn't need to hone or practice his abilities as he was naturally inclined to master them. One with natural talent but little discipline would find themselves in a tight spot against an experienced opponent, a la Anakin vs. Obi-Wan. Though this would not be the case with Darth Vader. Instead, his guilt would hold him back from unleashing full power. Ultimately, Vader was a broken man, pun intended. Though Vader had a skill with Tutamentis, Bane's lightning, I believe, could penetrate his defenses and greatly damage his suit. However, Vader probably had a stronger ability in telekinesis than Bane. Like in his duel with Luke Skywalker, he might get the edge in distracting Bane with his abilities, though Bane's force shield could possibly be strong enough to resist. Vader was also more proficient in the ability to apply force choke to his opponents, but again, Bane's force shield might have been too strong to power through. Ultimately, I do not think any of Vader's abilities could totally subvert any of Bane's. Therefore, I give the slight edge to Darth Bane in regards to force abilities. Darth Bane carried a curved-hilted lightsaber with a red synthesized crystal, which allowed him more cutting power. Bane was a master of the Jim-So lightsaber technique, though he was probably proficient in other forms as well, especially Sorisu, which he taught to his apprentice Darth Zana to complement her small size. Jim-So is a highly offensive fighting form, which complemented the large stature of Darth Bane. It focused more on strong strikes rather than random twirls and acrobatics like Ataru. Sorisu was a highly defensive fighting form, which allowed the user to engulf themselves in an impenetrable defensive posture. These two forms together would serve Darth Bane well against the many Sith and Jedi he would face. Darth Vader carried a standard yet bulky lightsaber hilt with a red synthesized crystal. As Anakin Skywalker, he was regarded as one of the most skilled duelists of the Order, possibly even toe-to-toe with Yoda and Mace Windu. As Vader, he would still be feared as an extraordinary duelist, killing dozens of Jedi during the end of the Purge. Initially, Vader was a Jim-So master, though almost exclusively. It was not until he donned his cybernetic suit that he looked into other lightsaber forms. Jim-So still suited him well, as a lack of mobility in his suit did not hinder his strong kinetic strikes. In fact, in some cases, his suit enabled him even stronger strikes than usual. Though he implemented Sorisu and Ataru in his previous dueling style, as Vader he added Makashi and Juyo. Though Ataru was known for his acrobatics, Vader adapted only its blade work into his style. He used Sorisu as a way to protect his suit from lethal strikes. He added Makashi probably because of two reasons. One is because he noticed how well it was working against him when he fought Count Dooku, and also because he started fighting a lot of Jedi at the beginning of the Galactic Empire. The Juyo form would enable him to tap into his newfound dark energy and unleash a barrage of lightsaber strikes at his opponents. Essentially, Vader implemented all forms of lightsaber combat, becoming one of the most well-rounded duelists ever. He was a powerhouse in terms of his offense and an unmoving stone in his defense. Unlike his younger Jedi self, each of his strikes was aimed for a killing blow, which made fighting him extremely daunting. In the times Vader had to go on the defense, he would lock his elbows close, blocking with an economy of few motions, immovable. Bane was an accomplished duelist. At his height, he was able to take on 3 battle-meditated Jedi with his use of Jim-So. If he had been fighting Anakin Skywalker, he might have won. However, he would be facing Darth Vader. Vader was a much more accomplished duelist than his younger self. Much like Bane's disadvantage as a Force user motivated him to adjust his skills to a measured perfection, so too did Vader with his lightsaber combat. Vader started as an accomplished Jimso master and expanded his skill set, making himself a more complete duelist. Vader would not be able to break through Bane using Jimson alone, but he had his Ataru blade work, Makashi stabs, and Juyo's unpredictable swings to utilize. Therefore, I give the edge to Darth Vader as a lightsaber duelist. The fight between the famed Darth Bane and the infamous Darth Vader would be a battle to the last breath. Both combatants were powerhouses of their time, but Vader's suit would be outdone by Bane's fully functioning, pain-resistant body. Bane was a master of Jimso, but Vader would have familiarity with the style and subvert it with one of his many abilities. Vader was a tremendous Force user, but Bane studied the craft to perfection. Though powerful, Vader was a mere shadow of the man he would have become, more machine than man. Though Vader was a more well-rounded duelist, I believe Bane's mastery of Jimso and knowledge of Surisu would hold off Vader's dueling abilities initially, at least long enough for him to whittle down Vader with the use of his Force powers against his suit. Though Vader might get in close to Bane, whenever he got the upper hand or got too close, Bane would hit him with Force lightning. However, Bane would be able to fend off Darth Bane with his Tutamentis even for a little while. Vader would buy himself enough time to strike Bane with his powerful blows, but his suit would start failing him, his strength would slowly dissipate, though he may get a few good strikes on Bane. Bane would have the upper hand, but he would not go in for a killing blow carelessly. He would remain as patient as his rule of two principle would incite on his character. He would wait to be sure Vader was winded. He would keep hitting him with Force lightning until finally Vader would succumb to the limitations of his suit. And eventually, though exhausted and wounded, Bane would strike Vader down. Thus, I declare Darth Bane, Lord of the Rule of Two, the victor. Of course, this is all my opinion. I would love to see your thoughts and comments. I really like discussing scenarios with you guys. Do you think Vader would win out, or do you agree that Bane had a slight edge over him? Peace, love, and may the Force be with you. Always.